Welcome, and thanks for joining me. This week in Hollywood, Mission Impossible 8 has amassed a record-breaking budget, Sony Pictures acquires a popular movie theater chain, and Bad Boys Ride or Die seems to be electrifying cinemas back to life. I'm your host, Juan Torres. You can catch me here every weekend covering the latest news, trailers, and releases. Before we begin, I would like to go through a few housekeeping announcements so you can familiarize yourself with the structure I intend to provide. First and foremost, the show will air every Sunday morning covering topics from that previous Sunday to Friday. Furthermore, I would like to give credit where credit is due by saying This Week in Hollywood is very much inspired by This Week in Video Games, a show created by a content creator whom I admire and have been watching for a long time, SkillUp. I will leave his channel linked down below. It was when I was watching one of his latest videos when I thought, it would be nice to have a similar show to this, but focused on movies and, well, here we are. Lastly, I would like to note, this video will contain chapters so you can skip to a specific part of the show if you wish. The structure of the show will be as follows. I will begin by going through movie anniversaries. I will then go into notable box office stats from that week, followed by a flood of announcements including castings, news, teasers, and trailers. After which, I will go over films you might have missed that released that past week and films that are slated to release that upcoming week. I'll conclude the show by going through all recent releases to streaming services, so you don't miss out on any movies you've wanted to watch. Without much further ado, I present to you all This Week in Hollywood. Season 1 of Ms. Marvel premiered 2 years ago to mixed reviews. Its sequel, The Marvels, released not long after to mixed reviews. Personally, I thought they were both flawed, but an enjoyable enough watch as Iman Vellani really brings energy to both projects. Sticking with Marvel for a second, Loki Season 1 introduced us to the epic duo of Mobius and Loki, about 3 years ago now. I've been recently getting back into the Transformers franchise, watching the Michael Bay movies again, and it seems there's no better time to do so as Transformers Rise of Beast opened a year ago this week. One of my all-time favorite movies, Pixar's Cars, opened a whopping 18 years ago in theaters, and even now when I rewatch it, I find small little details I've never noticed before. Speaking of Pixar, 6 years ago they released The Incredibles 2, the better one of the two Incredibles films. The $1 billion grossing Jurassic World Dominion came out in theaters 2 years ago. 42 years ago, E.T. Wow. Man of Steel came out more than a decade ago now, 11 years ago. Cinemas are coming back to life after the release of Bad Boys Ride or Die. Let's take a look at the numbers from last weekend's box office. Bad Boys Ride or Die led the charts, bringing in $56 million, a great showing after such disappointing summer blockbuster openings. The Garfield movie is a runner-up, bringing in $10 million, putting its total gross at $73 million, just outside of the top 10 for the year at 12. If sits at number 3, bringing in $7.8 million last weekend, continuing to climb to spot 7 for the year at $97 million. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, in its 5th week, brought in $5 million. Its total gross is now at $152 million, placing it at number 4 for the year. George Miller's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, brought in $4.2 million its 3rd week. It is now at a loss of 61% compared to last week. My favorite movie of the year so far, The Fall Guy, brought in $2 million its 6th week. It sits at number 8 for the year with an $86 million gross. At 9 and 10 are the 2 re-releases of The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers. Those brought in $2.5 million and $1.9 million respectively. Finishing off the top 10 is The Strangers Chapter 1, in its 4th week, bringing in $1.8 million. Completing the top 10 of the year, I'm recording this on Friday. Bad Boys Ride or Die cracked the top 10 at $75 million. Wonka is still on the list at number 9 with a gross of $85 million. Bob Marley One Love, which looks like it's going to be overtaken by If soon enough, sits at number 6 with a gross of $97 million. At number 5 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire at $113 million. And the top 3 is made up of Kung Fu Panda 4, Godzilla x Kong The New Empire, and of course, Dune Part 2 at $194 million, $196 million, and $282 million respectively. On to casting announcements for the week. James Gunn is filling out the roles for his Superman movie. This week it was announced Christopher McDonald will be playing Ron Troop, and Michaela Hoover, who has been in several other of Gunn's films including both Guardians of the Galaxy and The Suicide Squad, will be playing Cat Grant. Peacemaker Season 2 is adding some new faces with the likes of Sol Rodriguez playing Sasha Bordox, David Denman, and Tim Meadows, who will be playing Langston Fleury. David Howard Thornton of the Terrifier movies will be playing Steamboat Willie in another Disney horror spin-off titled Screamboat. Casting is complete as production begins for Wake Up Deadman, the 3rd installment in the Knives Out franchise. The cast consists of course, Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, Kaylee Spaney, who was recently in the surprise hit Civil War, Josh O'Connor, who was in another surprisingly good film this year, Challengers, Andrew Scott, Jeremy Renner, Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Kerry Washington, Thomas Hayden Church, Glenn Close, and Daryl McCormack. The Fall Guy duo of Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt have announced their next projects. Ryan Gosling is reportedly set to star in a zombie film titled I Used to Eat Brains, Now I Eat Kale. And although this is all we know, this is all I need to know to say you have my ticket sold. Emily Blunt, on the other hand, is set to be one of two leads in Steven Spielberg's next movie about UFOs. What if Ryan Gosling is the other lead and Steven Spielberg is directing the film that Emily Blunt was directing in The Fall Guy, Metal Storm? That would be awesome. Amazon Studio miniseries Blade Runner 2099 will include Hunter Schafer, who was just in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and set to star in Kinds of Kindness, as well as Michelle Yeoh, who just did Everything Everywhere All at Once. Moving on to some news, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 has reportedly amounted a budget of an insane $300 million, which puts it alongside the likes of Star Wars The Last Jedi, Justice League 2017, and Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. In other big news, Sony Pictures has acquired Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, making it the first time in 76 years a Hollywood studio has owned a movie theater chain. The highly anticipated Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four film is set to begin filming in July. If you felt that Toy Story 4 was a sequel for sequel's sake, then you will be pleased to know Andrew Stanton, the genius behind WALL-E, Finding Nemo, and of course, Toy Story, is going to be directing yet another sequel, Toy Story 5. Before even airing House of the Dragon Season 2, HBO confirmed we will be getting a Season 3. Speaking of sequels, the fourth installment in the Jurassic World franchise has reportedly begun filming. It will star Jonathan Bailey, Scarlett Johansson, and Mahershala Ali. Alongside Cillian Murphy, Rebecca Ferguson, recently in Dune Part 2, is rumored to be in Netflix's Peaky Blinders movie. If you were holding off watching Rebel Moon until the rated R version came out, it looks like you'll only have to wait a little bit longer, as Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon will see its director's cuts released on Netflix August 2nd. That same day, M. Night Shyamalan's next film, Trap, will be released in theaters. Only a month later, The Penguin, the spin-off series to 2022's The Batman, will be released on Max. Lastly, after the success of Bad Boys Ride or Die, the potential for Bad Boys 5 is being discussed, and I'm all for it, as these movies just seem to be getting better. On to my favorite part of the show, teasers and trailers. Let's take a trip over to Bollywood for a second though. The trailer to Kalki 2898 AD was released this week. It looks to be a huge sci-fi epic, drawing inspiration from Dune, Star Wars, and Blade Runner. The CGI looks fantastic, and I'm now sold on this movie. It will be in theaters June 27th. Back to Hollywood now. We got a bunch of posters for Deadpool and Wolverine, alongside a teaser which shows the legs of what looks to be Lady Deadpool, and fans have been going crazy trying to figure out who it is. A quick rapid fire section, we got to see the official slate for James Gunn's Superman, Daniel Craig dressed up as Benoit Blanc in Wake Up Dead Man, as well as a new poster for Kinds of Kindness. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, released a short teaser said to be coming soon. The first trailer for Paddington in Peru, the third installment in the insanely successful Paddington franchise, was released. It will be in theaters January 17th, 2025. DreamWorks Animation, the team that made the How to Train Your Dragon movies, released another trailer for The Wild Robot, and it actually looks quite good. I've been liking what Dave Bautista has been a part of recently, and that is no different with the new trailer for My Spy, The Eternal City, set to release to Prime Video July 18th. Similarly to how Across the Spider-Verse is a two-part movie, Warner Bros. Released a trailer to Watchmen Chapter 1 and 2, an animated adaptation of the Watchmen graphic novel. That's it for news for the week. In case you missed it, Inside Out 2 released this week. It now has a tomato meter score of 91% and an audience score of 95%. It follows Riley as she grows up to be a teenager, and how that introduces new emotions into her life. The Acolyte Episode 3 also released this week. Not a great response. On the one hand, I was eager to discover what had happened that night with the Jedi, Osha, and May. On the other, I did not expect what happened to happen. Whether that's subversion of expectations or just a weird place to take things, I guess is up to viewer discretion. Season 4 of The Boys also released on Prime Video. and although it has a 94% tomato meter score, it does carry a 64% audience score, the lowest of all the seasons. Nevertheless, it was announced The Boys is set to end with season 5 consisting of 8 episodes, and it will begin filming in November. However, they are looking to continue Gen V, which fans for the most part seem to enjoy. Last but not least, the day this video goes up, House of the Dragon will release on Max at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure to tune in. Next week, Tom Hardy and Austin Butler's The Bike Riders releases. It looks to be a gritty rated R crime drama, and both Austin Butler and Tom Hardy look to be in their element in this role. This has been high on my watch list, so I will definitely be watching this on release day. Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone, high on their horse after the success of Poor Things, are releasing another film, Kinds of Kindness. The Exorcism, yet another exorcism film, is releasing. And last but not least, coming to Netflix, Jessica Alba is playing a Special Forces commando in Trigger Warning. This one and the rest of them will be releasing Friday, June 21st. As promised, before the show ends, I will be going over all the movies coming to streaming this week, in case you've been meaning to watch a movie you couldn't find before. I will go through them quite quickly, but I will leave the full list down below. New to Netflix this week includes Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2 and Ultraman Rising. New to Max is House of the Dragon Season 2. New to Disney Plus is The Acolyte Episode 3. New to Prime Video is The Boys Season 4. New to Apple TV Plus is Presumed Innocent. New to Peacock is Cocaine Bear. And new to Paramount Plus is Casino Royale and Rocky Balboa. That wraps up This Week in Hollywood. Thanks for joining me. I've been your host, Juan Torres. You can catch me here next week covering all the news you might have missed this week in Hollywood.